let's install .NET on Linux Mint. Specifically, we're going to install the .NET 10 SDK and build a couple of quick applications to validate that we're up and running with C# on Linux. Now, in the upcoming lessons, we will be installing VS Code and JetBrains Rider, but for now, we're just going to get the .NET SDK up and running. Now, this video is part of a series dedicated to developing C# applications on Linux. Along the way, we're going to gain a better understanding of how Linux works and how to make our apps truly cross-platform. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and stay informed of new episodes as they come out. And if you're looking for even more .NET, SQL, Azure, and even AI training, go to iamtimcorey.com. All right, let's jump over to Linux and get started right away. We're going to go to the terminal. So if you don't like the command line, well, I'm sorry. There's a lot of terminal action typically inside of Linux, and that's the default because of the fact that it's very easy to script, but it's also very precise. When you have a GUI trying to explain, well, you go here and you click there, but oh, the website changed, oh, we got to do this, or the app changed. Whereas with a terminal, the command lines are pretty much the same. So first thing first, we need to make sure we're going to use apt or apt to do our installation. So we need to make sure it's up to date. So sudo for that permissions, and then apt update. And again, like you saw in the last episode, this does not actually make any changes. It just gets the latest versions of all the packages. So it's finding out, hey, is there any new package versions or any new information for my library of packages? So now that it's up to date, let's clear the screen so you can see the whole thing. And then we're going to say sudo apt install .NET, all one word, -SDK -10.0. Now, what is this going to do? It's going to install the .NET 10 SDK. A SDK is a software development kit. This is different than the runtime. The SDK is much, much larger. And the reason for that is because the runtime is for, let's say you had a web server for Linux and this is just to run your websites. You would need the .NET runtime installed if you wanted to run .NET projects that didn't have the runtime bundled with them. But if you want to do things like build projects and debug and those type of things, you need the SDK, the software development kit for developing software. That's what you want. Now we're going to get the latest, which at the time of this recording is .NET 10. Now, if you want later, if it's .NET 11 has come out, go ahead and install .NET 11. You can probably guess what that scheme looks like. So for us, it's .NET 10. I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to say, hey, we're going to have to install a bunch of packages. Are you sure? Hit yes. And it's going to start doing the installation. Now, I do want to point out one thing. This, when I was doing some testing on this on my laptop, I forgot I wasn't connected to the internet, and it started throwing up a whole bunch of errors. And I'm like, why is it throwing errors? And I realized, oh, I'm not connected to the internet, so it can't actually get this package. It could do a lot of things, which was pretty amazing, but it couldn't do that. So just make sure you're connected to the network. It's one of those pro tips. Okay, so now we can clear the screen here. It's all installed. We can verify that by saying .NET space -- version. We can see version is 10.0.103, which we didn't specify 103. That's just the latest version of the .NET 10 SDK. But what does this allow us to do? Well, let's clear a screen here. Now, I'm going to do this two different ways. I'm going to do this first with the command line so you can see how to do the command line, but also we're going to do it with the file explorer so you can see that as well. I want to kind of, bounce back and forth between the two so you understand how to do these command line arguments. So we're going to say first ls for listing the files where we're currently at. So you have desktop, this is the folders, I'm sorry. Desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, and videos. Well, I want a new folder. So let's do mkdir, make directory, and we'll call it demos. Cool. We do ls again, and there you go. Now we have our demos folder. Let's change directory or CD and say demos. And now we're in the /demos folder. And if we list here, there's nothing in there. Okay, so in here, I'm going to create a couple of quick demos. And this is a new feature in .NET, which I love, which is I don't have to actually do a .NET new project in order to test out if .NET's running. I'm just going to create a couple of files. So I'm going to say, first of all, touch, and then let's say demo1.cs. Okay, and you might say, what did you just do? Well, if I do ls now, I can see I have one file in the directory. Now, we can come over here to our File Explorer, the files. It's the equivalent of File Explorer in Windows. There's a demos folder. Inside there is demo1.cs. And if I were to right-click and say Create New Document, I could say, let's go with demo2.cs. And there we go. So we have both of our files here. But back to the command line, if I want to launch an editor for one of these files, which, by the way, if we do ls, now there's two of them. We need to rename this. We can rename it. Rename. I forgot the O in demo. There we go. So we now have these two files. I can say, hey, you know what? Let's just verify. Yep. So now I want to open one of the files. Now, I'm going to use a very lightweight editor for now until we have VS Code. VS Code is my preference for, regardless if I'm on Windows, my Mac, or on Linux, I like to use VS Code for a text editor because it's just so fast unless you bog it down with a whole bunch of plugins. So I don't have VS Code installed yet. That's probably the next video. But for now, what I can do is use Z, XED, and then say demo1.cs. And it opens up an editor. Now, this is a GUI editor. I can just start typing in things. If I wanted to, I could do something different, which is I could just do it right in the terminal. I can say nano demo1.cs, and this opens right in the terminal. Let's just do this for now. Console.writeLine, hello world, like so. Don't forget your semicolon because you're not working with an editor. It's going to prompt you on that. And then I'm going to Control X to exit. And do you want to save? Hit yes. Okay. So in the file name is hit enter for demo1.cs. It doesn't change anything. So now if we double click this or go back to Z, we can see that that file has indeed does say console.writeLine hello world. Okay. So that's our first demo project. Now, let's clear the screen here and let's say .NET run demo1.cs. And it's going to build. This is the first time running our project, and it says hello world down here at the bottom. Now, if we clear the screen here and run it again, it just says hello world. Cool. Okay, so we've run our first application, but let's actually make something a bit better in demo 2 because hello world is not exactly fun. So let's double click on our file and it opens up our editor, which is, again, is Z or XED. So let's say console.read. And again, you're typing by hand here with no help. And I actually like this. And the reason I like this is because of the fact that you start going, oh, wow, what is it? You know, parentheses, do I forget a semicolon? All these things are really good to kind of refresh your brain on sometimes. The basics that we get so used to an editor helping us do that we might forget. So coming back here is really great. So what is your first name? And sorry about the theme on this. I don't love the theme. I'll probably look at changing that in the future, but not for this video. Okay, nullable string, and we'll say name equals console.readLine. And then we're going to say console.writeLine. I already see the bug in my code here. It's not read, it's write. There we go. So console writeLine, and we're going to do a string interpolation. So let's start there and say hello and then name. And don't forget your semicolon at the end. Again, these are things that you kind of forget. Control S will save this file, by the way. And then we can just close it out. And then we can do, let's clear the screen here. Oops, clear, not CLS. CLS is for Windows. So clear. And now we can say .NET, if we spell it right, run, and then demo2.cs. And what's your first name? My first name is Tim. And it says, hello, Tim. So now we have an actual command or console application, command line application that is executing, asking us for information, and then working on that information. Now it's super simple, but we've demonstrated that .NET is in, .NET is up and running. And if we were to say .NET new, I believe it's list. There we go. Let's maximize this. Here's all of our templates. So here's one that's built in by default. So if you wanted to create a new project, we could come through here and say, hey, I want a console application, so .NET new console. And it would create for us a console app, etc. This is where knowing the command line is super helpful because, it's .NET new list with no dashes. Gotcha. It's deprecated. But knowing the command line is useful because you can do all these things without having to install anything. That can be great for when you're on a machine real quick. I just want to make a quick change to a file or create a new file or test something out without having to install a whole bunch of things. So this allows us now to work with .NET. We can do pretty much anything we want to do without an editor, just inside of our application, inside of our terminal. So now .NET SDK is installed, .NET 10 SDK. Now we've practiced with it a couple times with 2 different projects. Again, we're using that file execution instead of having to create a full project with a solution, a project file, etc. So that makes things a whole lot quicker to test out, which is great. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to look at installing VS Code with a C# dev kit. So we have a bit nicer of a GUI to manage these and to have more of that consistent feel we expect across Windows, Mac, and Linux. And then after that, we'll install and test out JetBrains Rider as well, just so we have both options for us. Which one you use is totally up to you, which one ever you prefer. I tend to prefer VS Code just because it's quick and easy, but at the same time, JetBrains Rider does have a free version now for the community members for personal projects, which is great. I really appreciate that. And it is a really powerful editor as well. So whichever one you prefer, cool. If you have a different one, you can use something else. But we'll go ahead and cover those 2. Okay, with that, we've got .NET up and running. Test it out, try it out, see what you think. Maybe run a couple of projects without installing a GUI first, without installing an IDE or a text editor. Just use what's built into Linux and kind of get back to the basics of working with C# and maybe expose some of the things that you'd forgotten about or that an editor is filling in the gaps for you, and just kind of get back to basics and see if that doesn't boost some of your knowledge about how C# works. Okay, thanks for watching, and as always, I am Tim Corey.